Welcome, warriors. In this week's episode, I welcome Dr. Lisa Hartwell to the podcast. If you're on my email list, you may have seen me reference an episode where she hosted me on her podcast, Anxiety Ease. In this episode, Dr. Hartwell shares about a different type of trauma, a trauma we choose. Intrigued? Grab a tissue and settle in. Let's rock. Does your past haunt you? Maybe you're in a storm that feels like it will never end. Are you fighting a battle that's rendering you hopeless? Maybe you feel like you're fighting alone, but your battle was not meant to be a solo endeavor. You were meant to be a warrior among warriors. My name is Heather, and I grew up thinking my battles were nobody's business until I found myself in an abusive marriage and felt cut off from all avenues of help. In this podcast, you will hear warriors' words. They will tell you of their battles, both won and lost, their journeys, and their lessons learned along the way. But we don't stop there. These warriors will share how they have applied those lessons to go from warrior to survivor to thriver. Whether it's an abusive marriage, illness, mental health crisis, or any number of traumas this world dishes out, these warriors will use their words to help you find the beauty in your broken, move beyond your battles, and become the thriver God created you to be. Pick up your sword or boxing gloves and join the battle. Your words are powerful, my friends. Make them warrior words. Welcome back to the Warrior Words podcast. Today we are discussing vicarious trauma and high-functioning anxiety. Dr. Hartwell's journey includes her career choice, which indirectly led to trauma that she essentially chose. We look at how trauma impacts us when we make the choice to jump into situations where the trauma is happening to others. Dr. Lisa Hartwell is a highly regarded clinical psychologist, high-functioning anxiety coach, author, and speaker with almost 30 years of experience, starting her career as an emergency room and flight nurse. Based in Hawaii, she specializes in guiding high achievers, executives, and business leaders in employing her acclaimed RBA method, emphasizing holistic and skills-based self-care that cultivates professional success. Apart from her private practice, she shares her insights through a podcast, books, online courses, workshops, personalized retreats. Dr. Hartwell is dedicated to providing practical solutions for high-functioning anxiety, stress, and burnout with a focus on resilience activation. She holds degrees in clinical psychology and nursing, and her current role is as a clinical psychologist in the state of Hawaii Department of Health, where she contributes to clinical eligibility determination and trauma-informed training and consultation. Previously, she founded Hartwell Therapy and Consulting, LLC, served as a clinical forensic psychologist, behavioral health consultant, and psychotherapist. Dr. Hartwell's values focus on creating hope in a person-centeredness, culturally relevant, and self-reflective approach that creates connected relationships. This drives her mission to empower individuals to thrive personally and professionally. Her multifaceted career reflects a commitment to health, education, and resilience strategy, making her a sought-after expert in the field of personal and professional growth. You're in for a treat. I enjoyed hearing this different perspective on trauma, and I think you will too. But before we dig in, I want to share this amazing review from Rainey Avila. And I hope I've pronounced your last name correctly, Rainey. Awesome. Wow. Just love how passionate you are about what you talk about. You're an inspiration. This podcast is just so uplifting. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much, Rainey. I appreciate you taking the time to review the podcast. Would you like me to read your review on an upcoming episode? Please go to Apple Podcasts and leave a review for the show. Your comments and star ratings help people find the Warrior Words podcast. It only takes a few minutes of your time, and it would help so much. Thank you. I mentioned my email list at the beginning of this episode. So if you would like to get weekly updates along with some bonus issues with new podcast episodes and new videos from my YouTube channel, please go to subscribe page.io / pearls of wisdom. And that link is in the show notes for you. Now on to the show. Okay, everyone. As you heard in the intro, it is my pleasure to have Dr. Lisa Hartwell with us today. Welcome to Warrior Words, Dr. Hartwell.
Aloha, how are you doing? Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for giving your time to be here today.
Oh,
So,
yes, definitely.
well, as we were talking earlier about being a warrior, you mentioned something that I found really interesting. And I've mentioned on a couple other episodes that trauma is not a one and done situation.
Mm.
And I really liked what you had to say about that observation, kind of in terms of your own experiences. So can
Mm.
you share some of that with our listeners?
Well, I would say that my trauma definitely came later in life. I had a pretty stable childhood and such. Grew up in the 60s and 70s and launched into adulthood in the 80s. And I had some stuff happen when I was younger, but nothing majorly traumatic. Other than the biggest thing that probably happened to me is I ended up with, I don't know if you know what tinnitus is, but it's ringing in the ear.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up with that when I was in fifth grade, and it kind of changed the trajectory of my um, listening ability for quite a while. It interfered with studying and sleeping and all of that. And that actually happened because somebody popped a balloon by my ear when I was in fifth
Wow.
grade and never recovered from that. So I had some hearing loss from that. But as far as emotional trauma and stuff. That wasn't until later when I was actually exposed to that, frankly, as a nurse. I went to nursing school but maybe about a little over a year after high school. And and then ended up as a new grad over here in Hawaii, moved here when I was very young in my 20s, went 21 actually, as a new grad. And, that's kind of young when I look back now of being thrown into taking care of another human being and being
Mm,
100% responsible for that. And one thing that when I think back to that journey of starting my professional path, it was literally being thrown in and feeling completely 100% overwhelmed because you're not quite competent yet. And the
right.
confidence that comes later um, felt very traumatic, especially when someone would die because they do, because they're in the hospital. And then later on, after I sort of got away from floor nursing and went to the emergency room, that's where I experienced the most exposure to trauma. And from there, that was many years. That was over 10 years. Through that process, I became a flight nurse as well and ran the flight program over here for a little while as the director of nursing. And of course, that exposure to trauma. So it was more exposure to the traumatic events that would happen in patients' lives
Mhm.
that wasn't necessarily happening to me. The trauma wasn't happening to me. So they kind of refer to that as vicarious trauma nowadays. They finally have a word for it. And I recognized at some point in my path that it wasn't really a term back then, but now I recognize it as really having high functioning anxiety throughout that exposure to trauma, to where I was having a harder and harder time recovering from that and settling down when you'd walk away from, a flight or, a bad case or something. And no one would ever have known that. And that's really what the key marker of high functioning anxiety is you're calm on the outside, cool as a cucumber, and you really look like you know what you're doing because you do know what you're doing. But on the inside, you're full of turmoil because your body and your brain is saying, get out of here. What are you doing? Exposing yourself to this situation.
Right.
It wants to protect you, but you can't because you're there taking care of someone. And so that is really what my story is that got me to this place of, and I'm so excited to talk about the warrior aspect of this because it is a thread that is really not spoken about how do you rise up and become a warrior through these seasons in your life that you're frankly choosing. How do you get through them and come out the other side a warrior? So that's really what my trauma journey is more exposure to trauma versus having things directly impacting me. which didn't really happen till I was an adult, as you know.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because you just brought up a memory for me that I hadn't thought about in years. I worked as I guess a manager, I guess was
Mm.
I don't know what remember my exact title, but of a home for children who had been, I guess, remanded there by the state
Mm-hmm.
for various reasons,
Right.
and some of those reasons, had to do with their parents who were incarcerated or
Mhm.
deceased, um, and I would Monday mornings I would develop headaches and I would
Mhm.
develop stomach aches,
Ah,
and it was, it took me a while to figure out why because
mhm.
I didn't work weekends,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, it was you look on the outside, you look like everything's normal, everything's
Yeah.
fine. And then these symptoms start to manifest. And I also think as you were talking, it's like it's a different perspective than some of the other people that I've spoken with, and who discuss the traumas that happen specifically to them
Mhm.
that maybe they didn't choose.
Right.
Um,
Right.
versus you're not choosing the trauma per se,
Hmm.
but you're choosing, I'm here to help people.
Yes.
I'm a nurse, and
Right.
so it's a much different perspective.
Yeah.
So how would you say that you learned to deal with some of these traumatic situations that you'd face in the ER or
Mhm.
in other nursing situations?
Yeah, that's such a great question. From my nursing career took me back to grad school and I became a psychologist. And specifically, one of my specialties is forensic psychology, which is working with the criminals and the incarcerated folks on the other side.
Mhm.
Having worked with victims for so many years, it showed up in the system. And I can tell you that the thread of why I was always able to maintain an interest in the work and survive in the work is the comrades. It's really about having battle buddies in the trenches with you. And when I think back of the fun, I know it sounds crazy, but the fun that we had on those airplanes and in the
Mhm.
emergency room, we're like a breed all unto our own. Whether it be through humor or what have you, and going out afterwards and crying together and really supporting each other. Everybody was in it together. I never ever felt alone. And I think that was probably one of the biggest markers of knowing that I could get through anything. We could get through anything together, knowing that. And then during grad school, it was a shift for me because it was the beginning of my understanding of taking this idea of working in a group situation for the most part. Almost always had a partner on the air
Mhm.
ambulances in the flight nursing world, and of course in the emergency room. But as a psychologist, it's you. And yet,
Yes. Yes.
there's this team around you during your training and during your supervision, which really changed my trajectory and supported me through that. But I had to switch my head around that it was one. It was me that was coming up with the solutions and the interventions and the change for my clients and my patients at the time. And that was such a huge shift for me to get my brain used to not leaning on my comrades, so to speak.
Mhm.
Now, mind you, I still do. I certainly have an amazing group of colleagues that we all support each other. But at the end of the day, I'm still the only person in the room with the client. And so
Sure.
that was a huge shift. Um, and I will probably get into the personal side down the road, but that really set the next stage for me of being prepared to really stand up straighter and really have that confidence that I could do this thing, that I could really do it. And I think every single season led me to where I'm at now based on okay, well, you're going to have to you can still hold your comrades' hands and your colleagues' hands, but at some point, you're just going to let go for a little while and then you can go back. That's sort of like this shift has gone. And that's really how I teach and how I practice with clients anyway. So that's really how it manifested in that way through the years.
Well, that's an interesting switch because you do
Hmm.
have to go from, you probably, especially in a trauma situation in an ER or in the ambulance that you mentioned,
Yeah.
excuse me, you have a partner. You
Yeah.
have there's always somebody else there with you,
Yeah.
and then you're by yourself in a room with a client,
Yeah.
and you have to
In
make
a
all of
prison,
those
no less.
Oh, wow. I'll bet
Yeah.
some interesting,
It was,
probably some very interesting conversations there and
yeah,
maybe
I
some
could write a
privacy
book.
laws and
Yeah. Yeah.
oh.
That
So
was that,
you
that was probably one of my more it took my exposure to trauma to a different level because I saw different the bowels I call of the human species that I hadn't been exposed to before.
Mhm,
I always found it was super interesting. The forensic psychology part is very interesting. Everybody's fascinated by forensics, right? But
mhm.
when you get down into the bowels of how criminal minds and how the institutions operate, there's trauma every single day. And so I think having the support was what got me through it and maintained my interest in it. But people have no idea that trauma exists every day on both sides for both the inmates and the workers as well.
Yeah, and probably people don't really want to think about that.
Precisely.
And
Precisely.
we hear the stories, we hear the high profile
Yeah,
stories,
yeah, yeah.
and but
Mhm.
we don't hear about the everyday,
Everyday
and
traumas.
it
Yeah.
happens to every single person.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. So okay, well, you alluded to personal.
Yeah.
So would you like to go
Yeah.
there now?
Oh, sure, sure. Yeah. And it's interesting when you think about, there is, boundaries aside, there is this integration of our personal and our professional lives that mirror each other at some point. And I feel like all of these different choices that I made professionally really set me up to be this warrior through my personal journeys. And one of the things that, binds a lot of us now is our motherhood. And my journey to motherhood was wrought with trauma, just because of the path that I kind of chose to take. I don't think anything ever happened to me. I feel like it was my choices. And then
Mhm.
circumstances happen that felt traumatic that I had to work through. And it's kind of has come full circle just as soon as last year, as recent as last year. And my journey took me through kind of, I got married later, didn't meet my wonderful husband till my late 30s. So, I was already on the road of, well, if I meet someone, I guess it's meant to be. If I'm not going to have kids, that's the way it is. That's all right. I'm a great auntie to, a
Mhm.
bunch of kids out there. And so I was good with that. But, we both still wanted kids when we met and fell in love. So that was something that we tried and succeeded immediately. However, that ended up with an ectopic pregnancy. And it was one of those pieces where you're so excited, everything's going so well. And I had my first doctor's visit at, I think it was 13 weeks. So after the first trimester.
Mhm.
And I was in the ER with an ectopic. And I thought it was a miscarriage, but I didn't realize it was going to be so painful. And they're like, something else is going on here. We're going to dig a little bit deeper. And that was tough because when you're a nurse too, all this stuff is going through your mind that
Yes.
you kind of know, but they're not sharing things and you just want them to tell you what's going on because
Mhm.
you can take it in because you understand anatomy and such. But that was extremely traumatic to have people all up in your business and not know what's going on. And so fast forward, I found out that I just was not going to be able to have kids. And we decided to intentionally pursue infertility treatments, and had two failed IVFs and lots of Clomid, if I'm sure folks know what that is, and IUIs and such. And it was like a year and a half journey. And I felt like every single one was not in bed crying kind of trauma, like
Mhm.
can't get out of bed, but
Right.
more so, why am I subjecting myself to this? Why am I subjecting my body to this? That's the part
Yeah.
that I was very much in conflict, and it was a goal that my husband and I had. So, it was kind of a little bit of a dichotomy of why
Mhm.
am I doing this when it doesn't even make sense when I feel like crap all the time? And
Interesting
then
questions. Yeah.
finally got done with that. And then just saw I can't remember how it happened, but I saw an ad or something for adoption for agency that was licensed in Hawaii, but has adoptions from the mainland. So we went to a workshop and we both sat there and were like, oh, heck no, 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 this isn't for us. There's no way we're not doing this. And mind you, like you, I had been on the periphery and involved with foster care and all of that because of my work. And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. I don't want that drama. I don't want that trauma. I'll do that in professional, but not, well, long story short, we jumped on the bandwagon. We called it our Jedi training. That's, just for
Ah,
lack of a better term, because if every parent had to go through Jedi parent training as they send you through for adoption, you would you would delay having kids for a little while because they kind of scare you into, this is what it really is, and you have to be prepared for that. And
maybe we should send more parents parents to be through
oh,
something like
we
that.
still laugh about that. We're like, because we're already by this time in our early 40s, right? And we're thinking, oh, come on. But and so that's where the trauma started just kind of continuing, which was we had four failed adoptions. And nowadays they call them interrupted adoptions, which means the birth mother changes her mind, and which is
Okay.
all important. And it's really important for folks to have that. But the difference is we kept going. We kept going to the state and showing up with the expectation that it was going to go through. So we weren't really that versed on how to do this whole thing. And it was horribly traumatic to keep showing
Yeah.
up, be 100% prepared because you have to be, and
Mhm.
then just to have the rug pulled out again. And we were 3 months out from our home study because they expire. And I told my husband I was done. I was like, I can't do this. I've had enough. It's been almost a year and a half, 2 years now. Actually, it was 2 years by then of this trying to have a child in our lives, and it's just not meant to be. And he
Yeah.
said, well, we might as well just try until the end of our home study. And you got nothing to lose. And okay, I guess, but very, very lackadaisical. I was like, okay,
Mhm.
but you're gonna respond to the emails and the phone calls and the screenings and all that. Well, lo and behold, yeah. So of course, God has different plans than we have for ourselves.
It
And
usually
so
works that way,
it
yes.
usually works out that way. And so that's what happened. And then we got a call and ended up learning a lot about open adoption, which means we have complete access to or the birth mom, and we have a little bit of control about how much access she has, but it's very open. We share his life with her, and so we got our son. Um, let's see, met her 2 months before March, April, May, 3 months before she delivered, and
Mhm.
then was there shortly, 12 hours after his birth. So and maintain that open adoption with her. So it was very nerve-wracking. Talk about high functioning anxiety throughout, just wondering if it was going to go through. And he's now 13 and a half. So now we're just, right alongside you with parenting and enlisting all of that Jedi training. Um, so we're in the throes of adolescence, which is a different
Fun
type of
time.
trauma, I suppose, right?
Yes.
But but yeah, so that everything that I would say that it's been the main pieces in talking to adoptive parents, and I have friends that have adopted, and certainly met so many folks online and shared our stories. And one of the pieces that keeps coming up as the trauma kind of rears its head, especially as a mother, is you feel like I don't know. I was trying to articulate it with Tim actually recently, one of our friends together online here, is that you feel like you can't articulate, but it feels like a different kind of pressure that you don't screw up your kid. And I don't
Mm,
know if other parents have that deliver biologically, but it's an interesting thread that we adoptive moms feel and are kind of united in that. And and I feel like it's rooted in the trauma, which is that at any point this situation can be taken away from you. And,
yes.
and
Hmm.
because you're exposed to that in trauma, and especially in my work, showed me that trauma results in loss. And,
Mm,
to walk through an adoption, fertility and then adoption journey where loss, that's all it was, out one after another.
right.
You kind of get wired into thinking this could end at any moment. This wonderful thing, even though he's a teenager, and I would love to like give him to you for a weekend sometimes. um, it feels like it's going to end at any moment. And so I feel like sometimes we work double time to try and make things okay. And I think that's directly rooted in trauma.
Hmm. No,
Yeah.
I would agree. I would agree.
Yeah.
I no, I noticed like when you said that about you don't know if birth moms go through that too.
Mm.
I can't speak for all birth moms,
Yeah, right.
but I can speak as a divorced mom.
Mm.
And the fear that I had that my children would end up a statistic.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I had to realize they already were as children of divorced parents.
Mm.
Um, but my thinking there was, more of the juvenile delinquency and,
Mm.
getting involved in illegal substances and things of that nature. Um, that was it was a constant fear that I wouldn't screw that up and that I would be able to, as a single parent,
Mm.
raise them to not go down that path.
Right. It's like that's
So
like a double whammy of statistics right there.
yeah, so it
Yeah.
was thankfully at 20 and 22 we we've had no arrests and no jail
High
time
five.
and yes.
Yeah.
And no, I am extremely proud of both of them. So
Oh, yeah.
they have both done very, very well.
That's it.
So
Well, hats off to you. It's a journey, right? It's
it
amazing.
is. It
Hmm.
is. And I like that word because that's kind of what you've been describing this whole time is that you're exposed in one way with other people and your comrades as you called them and that prepared you to be able to go through and do it one on one,
Yeah.
whether it's in a room or whether it's in the prisons,
Yeah.
and then that gave you experience and coping skills. Even
Yeah.
though you have the anxiety, you still,
Yeah.
you've developed skills and you're training to be able to, oh no, now we've got this one.
Right.
It's different,
Right.
but you now have skills
Yeah.
that maybe you wouldn't have had you not gone through that in the first place.
Yeah. And I think that's what grad school for me turned out to be, which was I already felt like I had it in me. Number one, taking care of patients for so many years. So I kind of already knew the whole framework of taking care of another human being. What it gave me though was language. It gave me the
Mm.
language to put on what I knew in my gut or what I knew in my head concretely what the steps were. It provided me with a language. And so to learn about what is the roots of anxiety, what is the roots of grief and loss, and so I'm able to articulate that now and teach that to folks. So I feel like that has been a blessing in disguise for not only myself, but to sort of parallel walk this journey with other humans that are having the same human experiences. And
Hmm.
hopefully we can just get through it like what you talk about with this sort of warrior attitude that, oh yeah, I got this, we got this. And last week I was just going through a little bit of stuff and was uh, texting a colleague who agreed sort of to be there during the week. And we kept sending each other pictures of Wonder Woman. And I was like, all right,
Yes.
shields up. Let's go. It's Tuesday. Shields up. Let's go. And that was just last week. So the warrior thing is front and center on a daily basis.
Yes, it is, and I love the analogy of Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
I kind of adopted her when I was going through cancer treatment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so yes, and I do remember. You and I probably do remember the silver bracelets and the
Yep. Yep.
we
Exactly.
remember the invisible jet and the truth
Right. Right.
lasso and
Right.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
One of my steps that I always teach for my in my book and stuff is I talk about an anchor, and the metaphor I use is sort of the roots in the ground of a tree in amongst of the orchard representing which is all of us. But we have to have our anchors and our roots solid. And for me, when I think about things like that, I can say Wonder Woman to you or Shields, and I don't have to explain myself. You know exactly what I'm talking about,
Exactly.
that is
Yes.
an anchor to send you out in your day so you can warrior up, basically.
Well,
Yeah.
you are leading into one of my next questions because you wrote a book about that.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
And I was going to ask you about your book. Your book is called Bad Apples, and you
Mhm.
use that orchard metaphor uh, in that. So tell us a little bit about that, because I see that as a way of thriving.
Yes, 100. And that's what
So
it's all about. That book actually came out 10 years ago, which is unbelievable to think about. Bad Apples, How to Feel Good Even When Rotten Things Happen. That was in 2014. And I use that as a springboard to my book. Let me see if I can. Oh, here it is. I don't know if does this come across the right way?
yes,
I think.
cultivating professional success. Yes, with
Yeah.
the apple.
Right. Grow even when high functioning anxiety drives you to the edge. And what I ended up doing is taking bad apples and going deeper diving into high functioning anxiety for professionals. And what I like to do is I like to teach in metaphors. The humans just kind of learn better through story and through metaphor.
Yes.
We start them when they're young, reading them those books that have all the metaphorical
Yes.
stories.
Hmm.
And everyone learns that way. And my particular teaching is about taking the concept of all of us really are growing our orchards throughout our entire life. And each one of us, however, is an individual tree within that orchard. And then bad apples and then cultivating professional success is all about understanding that what does it take to anchor yourself and grow your roots into this amazing tree with branches that really represent your developmental cycles and your developmental
Hmm.
growth. And then how do we produce abundant apples and have a thriving life? And what do we do then when we have rotten apples? Because there's going to be rotten apple experiences.
Right.
They go back into the ground and nurture the ground through the nurturants. And then the cycle continues. So
That's
you hear me talking about
yeah.
seasons a lot, and I grew up in Oregon mostly, um, and we really only have two seasons here in Hawaii. I've been here
Yes.
30, oh my goodness, I think I'm going on 36, 37 years now,
Wow.
and we have below 70 degrees and above 80 degrees. That's kind of our two seasons. And we're really cold right now because we're getting down to the high 60s at night. But nonetheless, we still have seasons here with all of our fruits and all of our flowering and everything we
Hmm.
have. And so the biological process is the same as for humans. And so once I can tap into that visualization for folks, they kind of, their defenses sort of back off a little bit about, oh, you mean I'm just growing? Is that all I'm doing right now? And I'm like, yes. And it's very painful, isn't it? But guess what? The only difference between us and nature is nature doesn't worry about the pain. Nature doesn't have anxiety. Nature just shows up every single day, lets the biochemistry go to work, and it produces this amazing fruit for us, or flowers, or what have you. And we're the only ones that attach language to that growing process. And I happen to use just high functioning anxiety because I work with professionals mostly,
Mhm.
and we hide it very well. And so I kind of tagged that term, and I was able to say, look, you actually do have this, but you're not clinical. You don't need medication or, or anything like that. We need to get you sort of tuned up. But at the end of the day, let's actually flip that around for you and use that high functioning anxiety as a cue that it's time for you to grow. And so the other piece of that that I know you probably uh, relate to this, which is I always, the part of my book that I go a lot deeper than I did with bad apples, is I really want folks to shift back to listening to your soul as your guidepost for growing. And that high functioning anxiety is really just a brain process to alert you to pay attention to your soul. And what happens is folks get away from that. They know what they should be doing. And when I look back on my life, there were so many times that I kind of pushed the override switch on my soul's desire or my soul's
Mm.
process or what God really wanted for me in my life. And it could be in small ways or in big ways, whether it be relationships or whether it be a business decision. And um, and now I'm old enough now that I recognize that in an instant and I follow it without question. I don't even question it. I get it. I get it. You don't have to tell me twice. So that's
It,
really what my hope is the next generation. I want to teach this stuff, and I'm super passionate about it, obviously. And now it's just the business side of it is how do I get this word out about this concept in a way that is tangible and easy and an easier way to live our lives and grow without angst and carrying the badge of honor of trauma. It's just it's I got through it. Just you don't need a badge. You really do.
no,
Yeah.
no. I think it is, like you said, though, it is human nature to I don't know that there are some, I think, that like that badge just of the trauma part, but I think it's also human nature to want that badge of maybe surviving
Yes.
and I made it through.
Yes.
And and then as we talk about too, going on and thriving, taking what we've learned as we've battled and we're a warrior and are surviving, and then taking those lessons and now thriving,
Yeah.
which you've done with your books. And then you've also mentioned wanting to get that word out. And I know that you also have a relatively new, not new, not like
Yeah.
mine, but new new podcast
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
high functioning anxiety. So tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about that, because that's as we know, we're podcasters, and people
Yeah.
listening are love podcasts. So it's a great way to get it out.
Oh gosh, and that was so fun. I just thought, in business, we all, there's marketing involved. There's that's the only way to do it is to get the word out about your business being in existence. And I thought, oh, I love to talk. Check. Technology, as long as it's easy, check, and I don't mind, obviously like to write. And so I love the content creation piece of it. And yeah, I started Anxiety Ease with Dr. Lisa Hartwell, and it's really about high functioning anxiety solutions for professionals out there. And it mirrors the first season. So it's been about a year and a half now. The first season was about mirroring the course that I have online, my retreats that I do, and my workshops and teaching. So that all kind of goes together. And one of the things I love about a podcast the most is everyone learns differently. Some people learn by listening, some by reading, some by talking and teaching. So I kind of love it for that piece of it, because it gives people a different perspective as a way to learn.
Right. So if they're more auditory as opposed to
Yeah.
visual, so you
Yeah.
have the book for the
Yeah.
visual and you have
Yeah.
the podcast. So it's a great combination.
It's amazing. It's been so much fun. I get to meet amazing people I never would have known existed online.
I know
It's so
that's one of the
fun.
things. It is one of the things I'm really enjoying about this, because there are so many people I've connected with,
Yeah.
that I never would have otherwise.
Yeah.
And so
100%.
it's a great medium for that. So
Mm.
one of the things that I like to ask people is, and you've mentioned a little bit, but I'm gonna dig a little deeper.
Mm.
Is if you were to look back, um, would you say that you could find moments of beauty that maybe you couldn't see then because you were maybe living in the broken?
Mm.
But were there elements of beauty? Now, the one that I remember you mentioning was, having your comrades that you could
Mm.
talk to, at the end of a hard day or at the end of a hard trauma session with with a
Mm.
particular individual. But were there any other types of things that you can look back on now and see beauty in these moments that were so traumatic? Either on the business side of it being, the nursing, or
Mm.
the personal side, where you experienced so much loss and trained yourself to expect loss.
Yeah, I don't. I totally have an extreme parallel for that, which is the thread would be my mother. She actually passed in 2020, January of 2020, which was another trauma thing we could talk about another time. It was very traumatic. But she was the thread in my entire life of someone always there. And she also taught me what it meant to be present without being she had the mom thing down. So without being like too pushy or directive. And she just had this presence about her of always knowing the right thing to say, always being there. And I can remember I call it role modeling now, but as an Italian, as a kid, you're not usually allowed in the kitchen. That's kind of how I grew up. But you were always allowed to be on the periphery. So either sitting at the dining table or in our house in Oregon, we had kind of like a porch, like an enclosed porch, and there was a window that opened to the kitchen. I would go get a stool and set up the stool and sit outside the window and talk to my mom while she was cooking. And it would be about the day or if I had questions or whatever, even if she was about whatever she was cooking. And I still have that memory of sitting there and, she was never like bothered by me talking to her or anything. I think about how annoying that must have been to always have me like, and, just chatting her ear off. And so I think what that did is it paralleled and taught, number one, it taught me how to seek out mentors in my life
Mhm.
who had that same quality. And I think that's how I grew so much in my professions that I chose, because I always had mentors along the way that were essentially had elements of her threaded through that. And it also has taught me when I was, anxious about something in my life with our son, that I tap into that. And I think, oh, all he needs me to do is actually listen. He doesn't need anything else but for me to just be present with him. And so
Wow.
I think that's all been very full circle. So that would be what I would say is been found the beauty in no matter what I was going through in my life, um, would be her.
Wow, that was beautiful. So,
Mm.
I tend to get emotional.
Yeah, yeah,
So
I do too, for sure. She
yeah,
was
and I you know
amazing.
I know that my mother actually listens to my podcast. Hi, Mom. Um, and
Go,
and
mom.
uh and having and having that support, and then also, being able to be that the multi-generational and go in the other direction.
Yep.
And I have my kids' support to do
Mm-hmm.
this podcast, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
starting in my 50s.
Yeah,
It's starting something totally new. And
it's so fun.
it's full circle. It's
Yeah.
great. It is great.
Yeah, my son wants to he's a musician. He loves music. So can I use your Yeti to record something? Okay. That's like a cool microphone, right? So it's funny.
That is funny. That is so
Yeah.
cool. And cool memories for later on too. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
same.
well, as we wrap up here, I have a couple final questions.
Mhm.
Do you have any final warrior words to offer our listeners? Anything inspiring?
Yeah, no, I think that's just the biggest thing is just to understand that we're all in this together. We might be maybe one or two steps ahead or even behind you, but we're all in this orchard together. I think that's the biggest thing I would offer, that if you feel like you're going through something, there's always going to be someone there for you. And that's really what it takes to thrive and to grow and essentially create your warrior badge, you know. Mm,
Very good. Okay,
mm.
so if anybody would like to work with you, to get your books, to listen to your podcast, where would they go to find you?
I think it's easiest just to go to my website. Then that way all the contact information is there, which is just my name. So make it easy. So
Okay.
drlisahartwell.com and
Okay.
everything's there for you.
And you also mentioned that you have something for our listeners. Can you describe that?
Yeah, I have a high functioning anxiety quiz for you that would be, it's free. Just go on and take that. And it's a really great assessment to find out where you are on the continuum of anxiety. And I give you some ideas on the ways that you can kind of shift through that and shift into um, a growth mindset.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'm
Mhm.
going to put your website and I will also link to your podcast in the show notes so that
Yeah.
everybody can find you and take that quiz. I think
Yeah.
some of us might be anxious about the answers, but
Yeah, exactly. It's all good. It's all
this.
good.
So, all right. Well, thank you, Dr. Hartwell. I
Thank
really
you, Heather.
appreciate your time.
Yes.
You have been a blessing, and I'm sure that others will feel the same.
Oh,
So,
same to you. Take care.
thank you. Bye
Mhm.
bye. I hope you found my conversation with Dr. Hartwell enlightening. She shared about going from trauma she chose to trauma she experienced later in life. I loved her Wonder Woman anchor and the orchard metaphor. How are your apples faring? And when you do have rotting apples, which we all do, how do you handle them? Are you growing, Wonder Woman? Shields up! That's it for this episode. See you next week. Until we meet again, armor up, fight the good fight, seek beauty, and make your words warrior words. God bless.